I'm just looking at all of the beautiful faces in this room and appreciating you. I'm so grateful that you all showed up today. I'm so grateful that you chose to be in community. And for those of you online, I'm so grateful for you being in our community as well. It's been a really, I'll just say interesting couple of days. Some of you may or may not know that one of our practitioners passed away a couple of days ago. Gary Schultz. Yeah. So it's been an interesting couple of days because we also, this community celebrated the life of Alinda Page yesterday, and so these flowers are left over from her memorial. And I was at another memorial yesterday for my friend, Firefly Laverne Olivia Walter. She, along with a lot of my friends from California, and I was with them in the honoring of her life. So it was just, it's just been one of those weeks where there's grief, there's sadness, there's anger, there's a little bit of all that, and then I get to write a talk on top of it. And my talk title that I picked several months ago is Dancing with Change. Yeah, no mistakes in God. For those of you who don't know Gary, as far as I know, I'm sure by the time his memorial comes around, somebody will tell me when he started coming here. But what I've heard so far is somewhere around the 90s, he started coming to Center for Spiritual Living Seattle. He became a practitioner. He's part of Reverend Jerry Berry's class in 2010. So he's been a practitioner here for 14 years, and also the practitioner to the Practitioner Council, and also several times the practitioner to the board. So he's a practitioner's practitioner. And one of the things that I love about Gary is when he saw me, he saw me. When I was in front of him, it was like the gates of love engulfed me and held me with a hug. And it's just where he was at all times with any person. It's been really lovely because practitioners and ministers have called me, and we've been sharing stories of Gary. And a lot of the stories involve him standing in the side of the sanctuary in this building or the former buildings, and just waving his hands and wearing flowy clothes and just being like in the energy and the movement and the dance of it all. And there's something sacred and holy to that I think is profound, that I can take with me. So what I've recognized is that every person leaving this planet that has touched my life has left me a gift. And it's up to me to discover the gift. But the gift that they give me is now a part of me, is now a part of who I am. And so their transition ends up being a new addition to who I am. And it changes me forever. I'm not the same. I'm not the same. So one thing that I wanted to talk about is this idea that change is the divine constant. Change is the divine constant. The only constant is change in life. Ernest Holmes says that we are part of the eternally evolving universe, and the spirit within us is constantly drawing us forward into new experiences, into new expressions in life. And I was reading about different traditions and change, and I came upon this Buddhist story of a monk. And he had, this monk was a young monk, and he was troubled with this idea of the impermanence of life because he had recently lost a friend. And he went to his teacher, and he said, I can't find peace. I'm angry, I'm mad, why? Just why? And his teacher pulled him aside and brought him over to a cherry tree. And the cherry tree was in full bloom. And he said, describe this cherry tree. And the young monk said, it has these pink flowers that are all over the tree. And they're just bursting forth. And the beauty of it is filling me with awe and reverence for this moment. And there's a fragrance that I can only smell at this time of year that is so sweet and loving that I cherish it. And then the teacher says to the young monk, he says, and in a few weeks, all of those blossoms will fall away. Does it make it any less special? Or does it make it more special? And when those blossoms fall away, leaves come out. And then in the fall, the leaves fall away, and the branches are bare, and the roots grow deep. And we're always in this cycle, over and over again. But it is in the impermanence of it all that we get the juiciness of the life. So as I was thinking about that story, I cut these flowers from my garden. These are dahlias that I have growing in my backyard for Gary. I cut them for Gary because he's a person who loved altars and flowers. So I wanted to bring a little piece of me to honor him on our altar here. I've got a little lavender, so it smells really lovely as well. And I also take from Gary's life the appreciation of beauty, because he was a man who appreciated beauty. And he appreciated the moment, and he loved each person in front of him. And so I do that today, now, because that part of him lives in me. And that's who I choose to be as a result of his impact on my life. Change is the only constant. So I wonder if you embrace change as a gift. There's a couple heads shaking. Not really. So can we move from resistance to reverence? Can we move from this idea that what is changing is a gift in this very moment? I recognize that my friend Firefly, so this was a hard one for me. Firefly is 10 years younger than me, and 2 years ago, she and her new band was doing a European trip, and while she was on this European trip, she went on a walk, and she got hit by a tram. And the tram made her fall and hit her head. She was still alive, but brain damaged. So she was in her body, but she was unable to communicate except by eye blinks. For 2 years, she lived like that. They brought her home from Germany, brought her to California, and the entire family did caregiving, and many of my friends, ministers, practitioners, visited her often. As a matter of fact, one of my friends said that they would show me when I spoke here Sunday service, they rotated people, and when they knew I was speaking, they would show it to Firefly and the family, which was really special. And then she passed away. So I have also been struggling with this, like, what the F, God? I mean, like, why? Why did she live? Why was she alive for 2 years only to die? Why was she trapped in her body only to have this experience? And I really appreciate some of the people who spoke at our memorial yesterday, because both her father and my friend Linda Rapon, her minister, talked about how she was always looking for the sacred in life. She was always seeking a sacred experience, but then she was always a little like into this and then doing that and never sitting still. And so Reverend Linda said, you know, what if this time, trapped in her body, but not able to express much, what if this was the graduate program? What if this was her sacred time to really get quiet and spiritually connect and find a way to communicate with those around her how deeply she loved them without much movement, a blink of an eye, a feeling tone, an expression. And they caught it from her. They got it. At a deep and profound level, she was able to communicate that love to all the people around her, and she brought together a community that had fallen apart. And they're together today because of her. And what if, when she was done, she graduated to the next level? That's kind of how I see it, actually, is we're here on this planet, we have our own choices, our own soul calling to have our own evolution that helps the evolution of the infinite one. And as we step into that evolutionary cycle, there comes a time when we're ready for our graduate program, or we're ready to graduate from this program and go to the next one. And while that is challenging, I think the big thing to recognize is, why do I fear it? Or what in it do I fear? Or do I use fear as an excuse not to live my life anymore because this happened to my friend? And I don't want to be that person. I want to live a fully expressed life that's not in fear. But there's things that have happened to my friends. Like, she died because she got hit by a tram. She got in her body. And so many of you may have friends or family members who have had cancer or other things that were the thing that had them transition to the next level. And because of those things happening to those people, there's some implanted fears then of that could happen to me. But I don't think the message is to let the fear take over our lives. I think the message is that everything has a season. And every person has that next level of evolution. There's a poem that was read at the memorial, and it's a poem we have in Science of Mind and Centers for Spiritual Living. We have kind of a couple of typical things that might happen at a memorial service, and this poem is one of them because I think it says so much about our beliefs. It's a poem by Henry Van Dyke. It's called Gone From My Sight. He says, I'm standing upon the seashore, a ship at my side. She spreads her white sails to the moving breeze and starts for the blue ocean. She is an object of beauty and strength. I stand and watch her until at length she hangs like a speck of white cloud, just where the sea and the sky come and mingle with each other. And then someone at my side says, "There, she's gone." Gone where? Gone from my sight, that's all. She's just as large and mast, hull, and spar as she was when she left my side. And she is just as able to bear her load of living freight to her destined port. Her diminished size is in me, not in her. And just at the moment when someone says, "There, she is gone," there are other eyes watching her coming, and other voices ready to take up the glad shout, "Here she comes!" And that is dying. So I recognize that instead of allowing what has happened to implant more fear in me, what I wanted to do is implant more love in me. I wanted to inspire more courageous acts of love. I want to honor the divine in every moment. Because fear, when met in the moment, becomes a sacred teacher. There's this story about Rumi. Rumi was a Sufi poet and also a mystic. And Sufism is one of the mystical traditions of Islam. And Rumi has this story of having a disciple, and he goes to the disciple, and the disciple is having a lot of fear, and he's afraid of things, afraid of moving forward because something has happened to him in his life. And so Rumi gives the disciple a rock, and he says, "Throw it in the river in front of us." And so the disciple throws it in the river, and then there's a ripple effect. And he said, "Your fear is like that ripple of consciousness. It ripples out. But the river, while changed forever because of that rock in there, continues to flow with ease and grace. It does not diminish. It does change the river, but it does not diminish what it is. It continues to move with the flow." And so, can we be in the flow of life, allowing the transitions in life to change us forever, but instead of allowing the fear to ripple out, we allow the flow to become our truth? My friend was born Laverne Olivia Walter. I knew her as Olivia, and then later in her life, she added the word firefly to the beginning of her name. And she did that because the abbreviation Firefly Laverne Olivia Walter is FLOW. As a reminder for her to always be in the flow, and a reminder for me to always be in the flow. To know that this sacred flow of life that is ever changing and ever evolving is the most precious thing that I have. And whenever I go into fear, I'm going into fear of the future, fear of the past, but I'm not present in the moment. And so when I feel the fear and I recognize that it's there, I'm able to move forward through it to step into a new way of being. Because we're all going to have fears. They're going to come up. And it's not the fact that we don't have them, it's that we don't allow them to take over our lives and we move into the flow with Spirit. Because our lives were meant to flow. They're meant to go in a certain direction, and we are called forth into that higher vision of life. So I wonder if you're using this fear for your benefit or your detriment. I used to have a fear of singing. I did. I don't anymore, thank God, but I did for many, many years. And maybe you do this or you have done this. Whenever people sang, and I'd sing along, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm the one who's always off key, ha ha ha, and I'd make fun of myself. I'd like put myself down because, somebody told me at one time that I was off key. And I was a kid. And then as a kid, I was like, well, that means I can't sing. And so I carried this story with me, and then I would tell people the story, and I'd reinforce it over and over and over again. And then one day, I was at Sister Spirit, and I was singing in a sweat lodge with our hired musician, Queen Michelle, and we were singing in the sweat lodge together. And after we were done, we had a big session with everybody. And in the middle of the session, Queen Michelle, who is our professional hired singer, asked me to sing. And I was terrified. I was like, what? I'm supposed to be facilitating this, not challenged right off the bat of my own terrifying belief system. And I did. And I did through tears and fear and all of that. But it was a breakthrough that happened because I knew I didn't want to be that person anymore. There was something in me that was seeking to have a greater experience and expression of life. And for a long time, I let that belief of lack, that I can't or I'm not good enough, rule my life. But something in me and something in Queen Michelle pulled me into a greater sense of being. But what fears are you letting limit you? The cool thing about this teaching is that we teach science here. We are people who dig science. Like, I love science. I'm a science geek. I love science. I love quantum physics. I love the whole neuroplasticity of the brain, all kinds of cool things that I get to learn and incorporate because Ernest Holmes, who is the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, used to call it religious science because he knew that in the spirituality of the string of truth through all the religions, there is a scientific aspect to God. And what is science? Science is something that is repeatable and provable over and over and over again. And if you study it and you do experiments with it on yourself, he encouraged, that you could actually evolve and change and see how God works in your life or spirit or the universe, because there are laws of the infinite one that work the same for everybody. There's a science to it. And we're discovering more and more about it, and now the quantum physics and the mystics, they're starting to say the same thing. But he didn't have that in his day. He didn't have all of those teachings. He was around in the 1920s when he wrote this book that we call our Bible. It's not really a Bible, but he called it the science of mind because he realized that mind for him was another word for the divine. It was something that was everywhere present. It was conscious, it was aware, and it permeated in and through all things, and there's a scientific provingness of it. So now we've got the science of neuroplasticity, which I recognize is a divine design in our own physical beingness. Neuroplasticity, which is the neurons in our brain, confirms what spiritual traditions have long known, that we are designed for transformation. Our brains, like our spirit, is not fixed. They are dynamic and constantly evolving. This ability to rewire our minds is a divine gift. It's a testament to the creative power of the universe. And each time we face our fear with love, and we choose a higher thought, and each time we choose to move through that fear into the highest idea of possibility, we are creating a new way of being in our brains. Because in my brain, I had made up a belief system, and I just kept that belief, I kept pounding it in my brain. And so I had like this little superhighway that was just like my default. I just went to that default. And as soon as I had that breakthrough, it rewired my brain to a new way of being. And that's completely possible for each and every one of you in whatever area of your life you're experiencing fear. So if you are going to recognize that maybe there's some fears running your life, ask yourself, are they asking for my attention for transformation? Am I willing to be a place where transformation occurs? Is there a part of me that's seeking a greater expression, and am I willing to not let those fears run my life, but instead go with the flow of the divine? Ask the divine, what is my next right and perfect step? Or what must I learn from this fear so I can bless it and allow it to go along its way? What newness must emerge in me in order for me to step into the beingness that I want to be? So we're going to bring it back to Gary. Gary, I would say, is a sacred dancer. And he loved the sacred dance. And it reminded me of this Hindu story of Nataraja. He was the cosmic dancer in Hindu mythology, and his dance embodied the sacred truth of life. A dance of creation, a dance of preservation, and a dance of destruction. And he would dance through all of these different modalities: creation, preservation, destruction. And it reminded me of so many things in our life, like we talk about breathing in, assimilation, circulation, and elimination, breathing out. We take in food, it circulates through the body, we eliminate it. It's part of the sacred dance of life. It's a trinity of the eternality of nature, because everything as we are releasing it, it is the same thing that is needed for the creation of something else. So every time I'm breathing out the air that I have breathed into my body, I've taken all the nutrients that I need, and I breathe out that which no longer serves me, that is something that serves the trees. And they take it in, and they do what they do, and then they release it in their own way. And it's this dance of life that goes through all of creation. But every act of destruction is also an act of creation at the same time. So I ask myself, who am I going to be now? Now that these people have graduated and transcended into their next evolution of life, who have they created in me? And who am I going to be as a result of it? So there's one thing that Gary loved to do, and he loved to dance. So we're going to have a song. I'd love for Bev and Gardner to come up here. And I would encourage you, if you want to, or if it's comfortable, or if you're able, to stand up and feel the music. Get a little bit of Gary, if you want, in your essence and energy inside of you. And know that the sacred creation is here. Truly, change is our only constant. That fear is our sacred teacher, and that this divine dance is the dance of life and our evolution, and the only time to be present to it is this very moment now. So I invite you to stand up if you want to, and feel the energy of this song, and allow it to move your body in the best way that feels good to you, that is sacred and holy.
You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who voice of Spirit on earth, and who you are and all you do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of Spirit on earth, and who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. A blessing to the world. I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the voice of Spirit on earth, and who I am and all I do is a blessing to the world.
Truth. I recognize and know that the ancestors are here in this room. And if you want to call out their names, call their names and welcome them into your heart and your soul. Gary, Firefly, Divine, Mildred, Mary, Bill, Edward, and any other names. Just recognize and know that they are here, supporting each and every one of us, transforming our hearts and our souls and our minds and our spirits so that we can be what we came here to be. And so I'm grateful to know that this life is a life that continues to transcend itself through each and every one of us. And that this life is a life that allows us to open to greater depths of love, greater depths of kindness and compassion, greater depths of awareness of what the universe, what Spirit wants to express in and through as each and every one of us. And so I know and claim that I am guided, just as every person here is guided to our highest expression of love and peace on this planet. And it guides each and every one of our actions individually and collectively, and something sacred and holy is happening here today. And so as I claim and know that truth, I just know that we are the light, that we are the love, that we are the hands, that we came here to be this very thing at this time, at this moment in our lives.
We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of Spirit on earth, and who we are and all we do is a blessing to the world. We're a blessing to the world. We're a blessing to the world.
And so it is.
Thank you, Reverend Abigail.